Okay, good morning, GPAR. Welcome to Coffee Talk. So glad to see so many of you. This is our first time in the new year doing Coffee Talk. So hopefully everybody's 2025 has gotten off to a great start. I'm Matt Braden from the GPAR professional staff. So glad to see so many people here with us today. Before we get started with Coffee Talk, just a couple of quick housekeeping notes. One, we will be having our inauguration next Thursday. There are a limited amount of tickets available. So if you would like to get in, we know emails have gone out. Do not hesitate because just a few remain available now. So get in while that's still there. Looking ahead to February. Why am I going ahead to February? Let's talk about January. And that's January 24th. We have our buyer agency workshop with Trent Pettis. It's a 2-hour workshop. Always draws a big crowd. There'll be some changes since the last time we did it, so we hope you will join us. It's for the grizzled veteran as well as the newbie. So please be sure to register for that. You'll see some communication going out from the association. So again, not February, but January 24th. That's a Friday, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Hope you can make it. So with that, good morning, Chris Mattioli. How are you, Chris?
I'm good, Matt. Thank you very much. I'm excited for this morning. Get to talk to the incoming 2025 GPAR president, but somebody I've had the honor and pleasure of working with on different boards and committees. But just think this is exciting time. So I want to introduce and welcome Madam President Annette Collier. Welcome to the call.
Well, thank you very much. That's interesting, madam, but I appreciate it. And I am humble in having the opportunity to represent the Greater Philadelphia Association of Realtors, the best association in the country.
Awesome. I like it. So obviously this is very informal, but just for our members to get a better understanding of you and your background. So if you can tell us a little bit about that background and how you got started in real estate and where your career is right now in real estate.
Great. I grew up in the West Oak Lane area of Philadelphia. I attended a high school at Cedar Grove Christian Academy, and then I went on to Lincoln University, which is an HBCU, and I'm really happy about that because, and we'll talk a little bit more about the connection with Lincoln University and some of the things that we have been doing. After graduating from college, I worked in sales and I did billboards, the ones that you see on the highways. At that time, it was called Revere National. Now it has been bought by Clear Channel. I worked for Sara Lee Corporation. I have worked for, let me see, who else? Comcast. I did their television advertising. And all of those positions, I had mentors, and there were always people that I could look up to learn and study what made them so successful. So that's a little bit of background before I got into real estate. What inspired me to get into real estate was my mother. My father was, he was a believer in buying land, but not necessarily properties because he didn't believe in investing and dealing with tenants. So, that was his thing. My mother, however, had a different philosophy because in her previous marriage, she owned a multifamily. So there was a time in my life that I had inherited some money and I used that money to buy some real estate. Now, the interesting thing is I went to several real estate companies. At the time, I was about 24 years old and no one was really taking me seriously. And I had this money. So, and I'm going to give a shout out to Julie Welker. She was the first person that took me seriously. Many of you probably know she was and is in the Fairmount area, and I'm also happy to say that she will be joining us on the board as well. But she took me out and showed me multifamily properties because that was the goal, to gain income from those properties. And so I winded up not buying in Fairmount, but started off in Delaware County. And then I became a full-time real estate agent with Century 21 Home Real Estate and Associates. Robert Jackson was my broker. And it was during that time, 1997, that I joined the Greater Philadelphia Association of Realtors as well as the National Association of Real Estate Brokers. So I would say that the journey has been interesting. I wasn't sure if I was going to make it in the industry. After my mother passed, I decided to make it a full-time, profession, and I borrowed about $20,000. And I said to my dad, if I don't make it within the first year, this $20,000 will cover me for all of my expenses, et cetera. And so I never left the business, and I'm grateful for the opportunities. It has afforded me so many opportunities of meeting people, traveling, gaining designations, which I'm sure you're going to ask me some questions about that later. But that's just a little bit of the background. And then back in 2002, I became my own broker of my own company, Able Real Estate Incorporated. And so we've been around for going on 23 years. We do property management, we do sales. We're licensed Pennsylvania, Delaware, New Jersey, and Maryland. So it has really been a great opportunity to continue communicating with consumers and trying to satisfy them. Because as we know, when we're doing sales, everything is pretty much based on referrals, and people remember you for how you treated them.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. No, thank you for the background there. And you touched a little bit on it about when you joined the local and the national association, but what has your journey been at the association level? You touched on the industry. Tell us a little bit about that.
Right. So in '97, I think GPAR was somewhere off of Vine Street. And so I remember walking in there. Cheryl was at the front desk. I think she might have been pregnant at the time. And I remember seeing all these photos of presidents there. And I think what really motivated me was when I was taking my real estate courses, pretty much they're always going to mention the realtors. So that their trade association is encouraged for you to join. And it is important to be a part of an association with like-minded people. We are the boots on the ground. And I would say that gaining designations at one point, people used to tease me and say, you know what, you got every designation. So I've had the ABR, Accredited Buyers Rep, GRI, I think that was the Graduate Real Estate Institute, Senior Real Estate Specialist, S, um, CRB, CRS, I'm currently a CPM, a CIPS, it goes on because all of those designations were of interest to me so that I would have a greater knowledge and expand my customer base as well.
Awesome. And
can you hear me, Chris?
I can. Yeah, you cut out for a small minute, but I was getting ready to say something. You came right back on, so you're good with that. Thank you. Great. And then I obviously got to know you a little bit, but I love for our membership to know what are some of the things you do outside of work. I know you're very active, but talk about some of your hobbies or interests that members might not know about.
Right. I love to travel. Right now, I have about 2 more states in the United States that I have not gone to, Utah and Alaska. So I hope to make that happen in the near future. And I've also traveled internationally as well. I think it's very important to learn about different cultures, what's going on in different areas, bringing ideas back to where you are that you can share with other people. A lot of times people are in a box and they just stay in one place and they don't, necessarily get to know what's happening outside of their immediate community. So I will say that real estate has afforded me that opportunity. I do like yoga. That's a good spiritual, connection. Every morning I have to get myself together to prepare myself for entering into the world. Because as we know in this business, we never know what we're going to encounter on a daily basis. So it helps to ground me. I like walking, particularly in nature and being by water. So the beach, I love laying there and really doing some great thinking in those areas. I also read. I think I mentioned that. Right now I'm reading a book called Lovely One.
How's it going?
It's going good.
Good. Good, good. So the big question, right? Why take on the role of president in this coming year? What are your goals, and what is your why behind taking this role?
All right. I thought that the time was now. I've had the opportunity to see many of our great leaders. I admire them. I respect them. I have served in leadership positions in other organizations, and I wanted to dedicate myself to this great organization. I think opening the doors of opportunities so that everyone can see the history of GPAR. Like, I'm very proud to know, I think we've had about 8 women in the past. We've had about 4 African Americans. We've had a Latino. And so I want others to know that it is an opportunity here and that leadership training is available. So I know that in this journey, I really want to encourage all people to want to get involved with leadership because we do need to have a future. So I just thought that the time was now for me to step up and use what I've gained over the years.
Awesome, and it definitely, um, I know that for both of us, engagement is a high priority, right? Getting more people involved, to help our association move along. So, what are some of the goals that you have for the association under your term?
Right. So as we just spoke, leadership is very important. Identifying those people who want to learn about how they can be an asset to GPAR. The future is something that I think is very important. I want people to not feel that they're just limited to just selling, but advocacy is also very important. I will tell you that I do serve on the mayor's housing planning and development team. So I've had the opportunity to be around unions. And what I really respect about them is that they are a united front and they have many victories that come their way. And I would like to see our organization to continue with the victories that we have had in a strong way. But in order to do that, we have to make sure that we're properly prepared, we're in the rooms, and we're at networking events and being proud to say that we are a realtor. I will say that when the financial crisis happened, I think a lot of respect was lost for us. I don't know how we wound up being blamed for that situation. And I don't want to get into the politics of what we know is the truth. But I think that we are dealing with people every single day. We're dealing with personalities. Sometimes we got to deal with people we don't like. So you got to deal with your psyche. You got to adjust yourself. And you got to keep people encouraged because they are dealing with things. They're dealing, it's a very stressful time. I think at one point, they said that buying real estate was one of the top fears on the, I think it was like on the top five list, on the list, five. So, in order for us to be good servants to these people, we have to ease the process and partnering with people that are going to take the time out to explain the process and the people not feel that it is only about making money off of them. It is always about relationships. So for me, most of my business is based on referrals. I don't say that people should not market. Market is very important, but referrals is going to go a long way. Word of mouth, people saying, that you've been a good steward to them, people inviting you to their holiday parties, et cetera, et cetera. So I think, that's one of the things. The other thing is, and I also want to talk about leadership training. So I know that I've spoken with the staff and, I know we're going to investigate and see what we can do to make that an ongoing situation. I want to say that the leadership training that we have had at GPAR has been excellent. Recently, and I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce his last name, but Dennis really center. I'm sorry, somebody's calling my phone, but Dennis has helped us to center ourselves in our leadership training. So I think that helps to ground us And it also helps us to open up the door to acknowledge the importance of leadership training. And I think GPAR has done a very good job with that. But I do want to encourage people to join and think about what positions they might want to be in within GPAR.
Yeah, I completely agree. I really enjoyed Dennis Alameda's trainings and some of the presentations that we've had with him. And I think you bring up a really great point. You know, it's not just for the leaders of GPAR. Any member could be a part of that and grow and learn more. So, which brings us to the next one. Like, we all have our own style. What would you say to a member that you're in front of? Like, what would the message be about the importance for them to get involved and to help out at the association level?
I'm going to go there, but let me finish with the first question because I think my phone got interrupted. So I spoke about leadership. I also want to encourage advocacy. And so I'm very proud that we have two women that are members of ours that are serving on the Philadelphia Women's Commission. Emily Wang and also Katie McGrath. It is very important that the GPAR name become a household name to the consumers. And I think that there's an opening for the opportunity for our name to be said all throughout City Hall, although many of them know. But I think it's important for consumers to know who we are and some of the advocacy messages that you will see on the GPAR website, the victories that we have had. Because when we win a victory, it is not just us who are benefiting from it. It is also the consumers of Philadelphia. And we want that to stay in the mind of the legislators. And ideally, it would be absolutely wonderful if we could have another legislator within our organization, such as Alan Dom, who has done a fabulous job as a president of GPAR in the past, as well as a council person. So, those are some things. In addition to that, marketing, making sure that our name is as visible as possible on all avenues. So, for example, the city of Philadelphia, they're doing many city halls. I hope that we will be able to be a part of those neighborhood action centers, which are places for consumers to go to that need help. We need them to know that when it comes to real estate, we are the experts. There are no other people. So that's what I really want to push. Get the people.
Yeah, advocacy is a huge part of what the association does. We know that, and I think that if you could continue to push that messaging through to the membership as well as the general consumers out there, that's going to be a great opportunity. You touched on, your appointments from the mayor. I don't know if you want to go back to, talking to the member individually, or you want to stay on the topic of, some of the other things that you're doing with groups outside of GPAR and how you're active in the political arena and your advocacy. So I'll let you decide.
Okay. Well, let me talk about those groups. So some of the organizations that we have, have partnered with are the National Organization for Women, the Philadelphia branch. And so one of the topics that they are heavily on is housing. We know that in the city of Philadelphia, our income levels are low. I believe if you Google it, shows like $55,000. And we have to continue to thrive and to encourage the development to happen in the city of Philadelphia, and also talk about existing properties, the financing for those properties where people can't afford the 280 to 230 dollar range, and talk about how they might be able to rehab them. So that's one thing with NOW. And then in regards to the NAACP, for example, I serve as their housing committee chair. They are a very large legislative body that is heavily connected to the city. So I know that they want to continue doing some things with us as well. There's a litany, and then of course, we have the Real Estate Coalition Group, BIA, the Builders Industrial Association, that we have good relationships with, HAPCO, Apartment Owners Association. The list goes on. I'm hoping that we will continue to have a great relationship with them, and that we will continue to lock arms when it comes to real estate issues, because again, we are the experts.
Yeah, and why don't you touch on, and we didn't talk about this before, but you brought it up too, Women's Council of Realtors, like that newly formed chapter, right? You're a part of that?
Yes, so I'm happy that Katie McGrath, the president of that, has been able to make that happen. They've done some events. It's targeted to helping us in terms of women in leadership and really just being better. Some of it is also networking opportunities. I want to say that I think networking is extremely important. It gives us an opportunity to talk about what we have on the market, what we might have learned about experiences that we have, boots on the ground, out on the streets, what's happening, what are we seeing, what do we think can be improved, what is it that we like. All of those things are helpful because when we go to talk to others, we can use that information to build up our knowledge and knowing what's going on in our community. But not only Katie, but also NAREP, they had a conversation yesterday. So the good thing is our DEI committee in 2025, there will be representation from all groups. So the Philadelphia Metropolitan Board of Realtors, we have Charlotte Bradley that will be representing them. Vladimir, I'm sorry, I don't remember his last name. He's a veteran, so he will be able to talk about, what's happening in the VA. One of the women from the Women's Council of Realtors, they will be there. We have somebody that is a member of ARIA. She will be there. So I'm really happy about that. And then Emily Wang will be talking about global real estate, because I think that that's also going to be a big conversation and moving forward. I think we will see more international people coming into our area because our housing is so much more affordable in places such as New York and DC that are outside of us.
Awesome, awesome. I mean, you definitely got your finger on the pulse of a lot of things, and we're lucky to have you as serving as president this year. I'm excited to see all the things that you want to bring that come to fruition. So extremely grateful for that. I want to go back to that one question, right? Like we have a great understanding now of your background, your history. What do you say to that new member, whether it's going to be an orientation or somebody you meet on the street? How would you articulate why they should get involved?
Well, I mean, I would use the same example as I spoke about regarding the unions. I mean, it's hard to, you know, when you go as an individual and you're only speaking for yourself, you will not necessarily get the same kind of gain as you will get when you're talking about an organization with over 3,300 members. We are very proud of our numbers, and we want to encourage people to remain a member because, again, GPAR is going to continue to be boots on the ground, talking to our legislators, providing educational programming, and great support from our office. And I will say, we probably have some of the longest standing staff people than any other association. So obviously GPAR over its 117 years is doing something right. So it is better to be united and be able to say those numbers and to get the wins that we need, because most of us are also voters. So we want to encourage strongly our legislators to really hear what we are saying, because we have the knowledge. We're not just, speaking to be speaking. No, we're speaking on facts, and our office is able to provide us with the statistical information and presenting information to the legislators, including the mayor.
I love it. I love it. So you touched on, the advocacy, why it's important with the policymakers. You touched on the continuing education and the professional development from the leadership training, the designations, talking about the new members. What can you give me some advice for that you received in your real estate career, maybe more sales based than association now, what is some of the advice that has served you best or that you would pass on to a new member?
I will say what I say to everyone, and that is provide the service and the money will come. If you put the money before the service, most people I know, they don't make it. It's all about relationships. And when we're talking to each other, and if you know that, somebody's making an error, instead of yelling at your fellow colleague, whether they're in your office or somebody else's office, express some love because everybody had a beginning and it's not easy. And we want to encourage people to remain in this business. This is a wonderful business. We are helping people with the greatest asset of their life that can create generational wealth. So, we have to be patient. And that's why, yoga and doing inspirational reading in the morning, and exercise and whatever you're into will help. But we got to be balanced because there's a lot of noise that's going on around us. And we have to stay focused on our careers and also our customers, really staying strongly connected to them as well.
Yeah, no, great advice, and I'm in complete agreement with you all the way through. I always say nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. If you're not treating your people right, it's a short-lived situation. So, Annette, is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't touch on?
One is, if you have not paid your membership dues, please don't forget to do so. If there is anything that you want as far as educational courses from GPAR, if you want to throw it in the chat real quick, because I am a believer in learning about what our needs are, and that means each of the members of this organization. I also want to say that I look forward to us having a strong relationship with the other principals. Some people just do residential, but also want to encourage those people who may be in a commercial business to consider joining us, industrial, property managers. Feel free to join us because, again, the stronger we are, we got good numbers, and we can have even more numbers. I would also like to say that I personally, of course, I'll talk to the staff because I don't think I said this before, but reaching out to non-members to join GPAR.
Awesome. All right. Well, that's the questions I had for you. I wanted to take this opportunity to really give, our membership a good sense of who you are, what your goals are, some of your background. You have a very extensive background. I know you've been very, active in advocacy. You've always been someone that I've turned to with questions and concerns, and you've helped me over my time. I look forward to being a resource to you as well. Glad to help if there's anything I can help you with, but good luck in 2025 and wish you nothing but the best. Any closing remarks?
Thank you, President Mattioli. You have done a very good job as the president. And what I admire about you, you're very peaceful. And for those of you who don't know, Chris can dance.
Annette found out I got some moves, huh?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
his
wife's a great.
Keep them hidden. We had the opportunity, my wife and I, to hang out with Annette at a party, and she watched us go out on hit that dance floor, right?
Yes. And I also want to say, everybody, just stay encouraged. We've been up and down in this industry, and I hope that we will be able to identify some things that people might, in regards to the real estate industry. There are solicitations for droners, photographers. I'm just amazed at the talents that our members have. So, maybe having conversations about additional income things that are pertaining to real estate could also be a conversation.
No, I love it. Thank you so much, Annette, for your time. And I'm going to pass it back off to our CEO, Mr. Braden, for some closing remarks.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Annette. Thanks, Chris. Great conversation. wonderful introduction to our president that's coming in, inauguration next week. As I said earlier, few tickets remain. So if you're looking to join us next week, I would do that sooner rather than later. And again, keep your eyes open for our session that we'll have with Trent Pettis at the end of the month. Again, thanks everybody for joining us today. Have a great day. Keep warm and go Birds.
Yeah.